Assalamu alaikum, shalom, peace be upon you. These are very troubling times. We are here together, we are here to remember the victims who were barbarically killed 3 days ago in Syria from the acid attacks. In addition, we are also here to remember all the Syrian people that have been affected by over 6.5 years of civil war. I want to start something with the facts, and I think the facts speak louder than anything else, and it's really important to understand what is taking place in Syria. According to the Syrian Center of Policy Research, an independent Syria research organization, the death toll from the conflict as of last February was 470,000. The spread and intensification of fighting has led to dire humanitarian crisis. More than 11 million people, Syrian people, have been displaced. More than 5 million Syrian people have fled to other countries. There are over 6.1 million internally displaced people, or IDPs. This was by mid of 2016. An estimated 1 million people were living in besieged areas and denied life-saving assistance and humanitarian aid. Most Syrian refugees remain in the Middle East, in Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt. Slightly more than 10% of refugees have fled to Europe. Children affected by the Syrian refugee crisis are at risk of becoming ill, malnourished, abused, exploited. Millions have been forced to quit school. According to Europol, over 10,000 Syrian children are missing in Europe. There's no trace of them. There are women in Europe, in Bulgaria, girls, who had no choice left but to get into prostitution so they can feed their family. These are facts. It's beyond words, the humanitarian catastrophe that is taking place. More than 117,000 have been detained and disappeared since 2011. There's no trace of these people. And this is a very generous, rough estimate. And they've been detained and disappeared by the vast majority by the government forces, including 4,557 between January and June 2016. Thousands have been tortured in the detention, have been killed, and God knows what else has happened to them. The devastation is, of course, also spread in Iraq and Yemen. And I have to add this because this is part of the conflict that has overspread, where 2.2 million Iraqi civilians have been killed since the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003. Over 4 million civilians in Yemen are at the brink of starvation. Even South Sudan, we're seeing over 100,000 people are in famine. And according to World Food Program and other UN bodies, they're saying over 1 million people are at the risk of famine and starvation. So, we are here because we grieve with the people of Syria. We are being affected by the tragedies that we're seeing on TV and on social media. We've been affected by the stories of so many wonderful Syrian families as refugees who have come to this country, who are wonderful people. The children are going to school, they're working. You know, we have sat down with them, have coffee, we have invited for the events. And they are the mouthpiece of what is really taking place on ground reality. Well, talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump issued the first ban, the travel ban, which I call the Muslim ban. And of course, that was blocked. And then he came up with a second ban that was also blocked. From that ban, now keep in mind that we have atrocities taking place in Syria. And millions of people are fleeing the conflict. Not because they want to come here, but because they have no choice. Cities like Aleppo and Homs and so many other towns have been devastated in rubble. People are eating grass for food. People are slaughtering cats for food. So they had no choice but to flee the conflict for survival. So our current president issued bans to block not only refugees from Syria, but from other 6 predominant Muslim countries. I knew families that had US visa in their hand, flying from Amman. They landed in Kiev, Ukraine. Women with children, 2 days in the airport, and they were sent back to Amman. People were stopped at the airports, harassed, detained for no apparent reason. Many stories. So the ban, on top of the conflict, affected so many of these families. And families here too, who are being separated from their loved ones for months and years. 2 days ago, Donald Trump said, "My attitude towards Syria and Assad has changed very much." In a statement 2 nights ago, he said, when he ordered the missile attacks in Syria, he said, "Assad choked out the lives of helpless men, women, and children. It was a slow and brutal death for so many. Even beautiful babies were cruelly murdered in this very barbaric attack. Here's my request and direct demand to Donald Trump. And I ask you, Mr. President, to allow immigrants and refugees from these devastated countries in the United States, allow them to enter the United States. It's time to dissolve the bias and discriminatory policies and the executive orders on travel ban and Muslim ban. If he is so concerned about those babies and children, then it's time to change the policy. And it's time to allow these families, women and children and babies, to come to the United States. As simple as that. To talk the talk, gotta walk the walk. So I say to Mr. President, if you really have a change of the heart, then change your policy towards these innocent children, mothers, babies, elders, men. I've been following this conflict for almost 2 years now. I've been in touch with a lot of the team on ground in Europe, in Lesbos, in Camp Moria, in Cali, in Serbia, Bulgaria. People have been put in camps, barbed wires. It's like concentration camps. Water cannons being shot at the civilian population. I mean, it's inhumane. It's unbelievable. And this just didn't start a few years ago. It's been going on for 6 years. It took us 6 years to finally realize something has to be done. That's a symbolic attack, by the way. It hasn't had any direct impact on the civilian population yet. I ask everyone from our community, regardless of your faith or no faith, who have arrived this evening to allow our souls to rest, share and respect our beliefs, break bread together, drink from the same cup, and pray our own way. We are here because we care, and we care because we know it is unacceptable what is taking place in Syria, even right now. We're here because we grieve with the people of Syria. So my brothers and sisters of humanity, let's come together, shoulder to shoulder, for the sake of justice and peace. Let's not just stand up for justice and peace on Facebook or on social media. Let's stand up and do something. Real, concrete activism. Reach out to your officials. Organize events like this. Create awareness. Reach out to your Syrian fellow brothers and sisters, businesses, families. Volunteer for them. So I ask all of us to come together. Let's not forget that our voice is the most powerful weapon. It can make a huge impact. There's nothing more powerful than human spirit. Let's not forget our brothers and sisters in Syria, and Iraq, and Yemen, and Sudan, and so many other places in this world, Afghanistan, that are going through devastating situations. And I'm sure all of you know, you've seen the pictures, you've seen the videos, you've Googled it. My initiative to take this vigil was for us to come together, and when you leave from here, we have petitions inside to sign, can be delivered to Congressman David Price, Senator Burr, Senator Tillis. And I will ask you, please, to step out of your comfort zone, step out of your box, and reach out to your fellow Syrians, refugees, and families, and speak out. Your voice can make a difference. Thank you. Next, I'm going to invite a wonderful and humble and beautiful man. His name is Sheikh Abdullah. His current occupation is he's a religious imam and a scholar. He's an asylum applicant with his family. His case has been pending since 2014. He's been very active with the community and with the media. He was very directly affected by the ban because his daughter was planning to come here and she was not able to because of the ban. But thank God, to his mercy and community's activism and everybody's involvement, his daughter was able to come. So with no due time, I'd like to invite Sheikh Abdullah Khadr. Thank you.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise and thanks be to God. We ask God to raise the position and to send more blessings upon Prophet Muhammad, his forefather Prophet Abraham, his two brother prophets Moses and Jesus, and all of the prophets and messengers and all of their followers until the day of judgment. I greet you with the greeting of Islam, and the greeting of Islam is peace. So may peace be upon and with all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to start with thanking Brother Faisal and everyone who contributed to this event, and especially the brothers and sisters who drove from a far distance to come and to show their support, not only by word but by action. So maybe I can speak on behalf of the Syrian people that we really appreciate each and every single one of you, young and old, men and women, children. We really thank you for your support and your coming today, taking some time from your weekend. So we really appreciate that, and we pray to God to bless all of you and to grant you happiness in this world and in the next world. Almighty God says in the Quran that whoever kills one soul, he is as if he killed all of humanity. من أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا. Whoever kills one soul, he will be considered as if he killed all of humanity, and whoever saves one soul, he is as if he saved all of humanity. God doesn't say in which way this soul is killed. It's not necessarily by chemical weapons. It's not necessarily by only that weapon that we will move in any way or by any means. Just today, just a couple of hours ago, in the same city where the chemical weapons were used, a new massacre of 14 innocent civilians, including children, were killed by the airstrikes of Russia and Assad regime launched from the same airport that was hit by the US. So we are wondering, is this a play or a joke or what? Unfortunately, the killing is continued in different ways, and massacres are continued in big scales, and still we did not really see any attempt, true and sincere attempt to end this massacre and this genocide of the century. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he says, the destruction of the whole world is less important in the sight of God than shedding the blood of an innocent soul. The destruction of the whole world is less important in the sight of God than shedding the blood of one innocent soul, no matter where this soul is from, no matter what religion, no matter what background, any soul. We care for all souls because we are all humans who belong to the same family, whether we like it or not. We are all the children of Adam and Eve, peace be upon them. We are one human family. So this is a natural stand that we are standing next to our brothers and sisters, even though we have not seen them or met them, talking in your name. For me, I saw with my own eyes the suffering and the killing, and they say the one who heard is not like the one who saw. In my last sermon in this blessed masjid, the Islamic Association of Cary, I mentioned an important tradition of our Prophet says that a man was punished in his grave, and when he was asked, or when he asked the angels, why you punished me? They said, you passed by someone who's oppressed and you did not support him. So we have to support the oppressed ones, regardless of their background. We have to support them because they are our brothers and sisters, because we are humans. I came from Syria 2011, just 5 months after the revolution started, and I was among the very early protesters protesting against the reaction of the regime. In those days, we went out and protested peacefully just to get our basic human rights. Some people, they have no idea why we as Syrian people protested and demonstrated and marched into the streets. I'll give you quick 2 examples. One day, I received a report from the intelligence agencies that I'm praying at school in congregation. That was the charge that they charged me with. And another time, someone came to my house and he said, you are holding religious classes in your house, and this is not allowed. That's one of the, just an example, let alone the corruption and the deprivation of political and basic human rights of freedom and expression, freedom of expression and assembly, etc. So this is why the Syrian people revolted. And when we revolted, all of the world saw, and you can still see in the internet, how we marched out with the branches of the olive trees. With the branches of the olive trees, this is how our protests were. And when I left Syria in August 2011, they did not allow me in the airport because I was participating and I talked to the media. After 1 month, I was allowed to go. That time there was no armed opposition. That time still was the regime is killing us with live ammunition while we were peacefully protesting, and this is something I saw with my own eyes. 3 of my friends in the protest, they were shot on their head by the snipers. Why? Just because they expressed their opinion. Unfortunately, things got much worse. The regime started shelling our cities, torturing our people to death. And my own cousin is one of them. He was tortured to death. And at least 15 people of my family in prison or killed or martyrs. The uncle of my wife and his whole family, they died under their building. The building all demolished on their heads. And all of them were killed. So this is something we have been suffering for a long time. It's not new. And if you look now at the Syrian pages on Facebook, honestly, Syrians are ridiculing the world. They're saying as if the US is telling Bashar and his allies, Russia and Iran and those murderers, don't worry, kill the Syrian people in any way, but not with the chemical weapons. You can keep going, keep continuing the killing with the barrel bombs, with the rockets, with all types of weapons. Just don't approach chemical weapons. Well, we have hundreds of thousands of people who have been killed so far, and still the world is watching, unfortunately. And this step that we have seen is not enough in any way. And it seems just a play for us. The same airport is now being used. Today, there has been a massacre by the same airport. In other airports, there are areas who have been under siege for 4 years now. We have direct contact with them, our relatives, our own people. My brother-in-law, he got a baby just recently in the besieged area of the countryside of Damascus. And if you look at the picture of his son, you can see the bones of his chest, because there's no milk, no food. Basic human rights, basic resources of living are missing. And still, the world is just giving us talks and talks, unfortunately. What do the Syrians want from the world? All what we asked for, all of the things that Syrians asked for in their demonstrations, they were asking, please just give us something to stop these airplanes. We do not want intervention from any people. Just give us anti-aircraft missiles. Just give us something to stop those planes that are causing us every day to pull our children from beneath the demolished houses. That has become a daily scene. I don't know, maybe it became a norm for people to see these scenes. So we hope that this will stop, and we hope that people like yourselves, great people like yourselves, will stand up and will spread the word and will make the people in charge hear our voice, that we have to support the Free Syrian Army, the Free Syrian opposition, to defend themselves at least. We don't want intervention. We just want to get the missiles or the things that we can stop those airplanes from killing our children and our women. May God bless everyone who supported the Syrian people in any way or by any means. And Brother Faisal already explained many of the ways that you can help. May God help all of the people who are oppressed everywhere. May God relieve the people of Syria and all people and ease their hardship and heal and give healing and recovery to their wounded ones and accept their martyrs and give them support. May God bless all of you and your families. Thank you so much again. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. All praise and thanks be to God. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh. Our next speaker guest is Dr. Muhammad Arida. He's a cardiologist and a Cone Health born, was raised in Syria. He moved here in 1999 after his medical school. Dr. Arida.
Thank you for coming, and thanks for inviting me. So I came to the United States in 1999, so obviously I wasn't in Syria when the war started. But as with any typical Syrian family, you know, I come from a big family, a lot of extended family and relatives. When the revolution started in 2011, it was a struggle just to get news about your own family. My parents were still there. I had two brothers there, so we did everything possible to get them out at that time, and we were able to. We were the lucky ones, we were able to do that. But unfortunately, not everyone is as lucky. Since things started in 2011, we've been all watching the horror unfolding almost on a daily basis. We became, at least personally, glued to my phone and social media and getting the news from there, because that was really the most reliable way of getting this news. Unfortunately, after a while, you become numb to all these events. And watching the videos and the pictures of people being massacred, you know, civilians just not being able to defend themselves, it becomes hard to function, you know. And so about a year ago, actually, it was a decision, or maybe in my unconscious level, where I started avoiding watching all these videos because I just could not function at my work. You know, being a cardiologist, you have to take care of patients, you have to be focused. So it was really difficult to just go through these horrors and watch the suffering on a daily basis. So it went like that, but you know, every morning I have this habit, I have my cell phone next to my bed. The first thing I do when I wake up, unfortunately, is I look at my phone and I open my Twitter and Facebook. And every morning it's probably just kind of a mixed emotion of fear and hope at the same time, kind of hoping that maybe one day I'll get some kind of piece of news that this thing has stopped. Or at the same time, you know, hoping not to hear that one of my relatives was killed or detained. Tuesday morning, when I opened my phone and I started looking at some of the pictures that I avoided before, the pictures of babies I could not avoid. So I couldn't, so I opened the movie links and I saw babies suffocating. And that just, it was a moment for me that I couldn't control myself. When you see little kids having difficulty breathing and then you watch their last breath on camera, there is just something that hits you there. You know, in any conflict, you can say this is a civil war, or they're victims and stuff like that, but civilians and kids like that should not suffer. And there has to be some moral responsibility from leaders of the world to prevent something like that. We have witnessed throughout history so many similar conflicts, and we said before, no more. You know, we claim that as human beings we are now well connected. There is media, there is social media. You can really spread the news about pretty much anything you want. And as Syrians thought initially that if they spread the news about their struggle, that they're going to get some support or at least some help from outside, when they were being massacred on a daily basis, and day after day went and nothing happened. So the chemical weapon attack came, but this was obviously not the first one. There was a previous big one in 2013. We drew red lines, but obviously these were not enforced. And when these red lines were not enforced, that was an encouragement to continue with these massacres, unfortunately. So things got worse to the regular Syrian people after that. But how long do we keep this going? I mean, This is now described as the worst humanitarian crisis since World War II. So many killed people, so many handicapped people from the war, so many disabled, so many still detained. I have 2 cousins that are still detained more than 4 years now. We don't know anything about them. And sometimes I avoid thinking about that, because we all read and seen what is done in the Syrian prisons. Unfortunately, usually anyone who doesn't make it, or if you don't hear about them within a year, usually they are dead, and usually they are dead under torture. Our officials in the United States, they know that, because there was a defector from the Assad prisons that brought all these documented pictures. He was actually a photographer in the Assad prisons, and he smuggled all these pictures. And these pictures were shown in museums, and they were shown in Congress. So people know what's happening there, but for some reason it's still happening. There is complete failure from what we call United Nations. There is complete failure from the world powers. And if you leave it up to Russia, Russia is not going to care about human beings and is not going to care about civilians. When you have a leadership in Russia that has done similar things in other countries, don't expect great things from Russia. Whether we like it or not, the United States is the leader of the free world. And with that leadership comes responsibility. We can't keep hiding behind ineffective United Nations. There has to be some other measures that are taken. Civilians have to be protected. Not every intervention is bad. We understand that the intervention in Iraq was for their own reasons, and since then people have been stuck on that. They have not been able to see beyond that, unfortunately. The situation in Syria is different from Iraq. There have been successful interventions in the past in Bosnia, in Kosovo, that has prevented probably hundreds of thousands of deaths. So why is that not being done in Syria the same way? There is no political will. As much as I was excited about the strikes that hit the airbase that was responsible for the chemical attacks, I was also shocked and surprised that something could have been done a long time ago, and it was not done. And something still can be done, but I'm not really sure if it's going to be done or not. Because from what you hear and stuff like that, it looks like that was just a one-time thing. But how is that going to help the average Syrian? I mean, if you tell them that you're going to be killed by, like the others said, barrel bombs, how is that going to be different from chemical weapons? Maybe chemical weapons is just a more painful death, but honestly, being under the rubbles, not able to breathe, and that's also a very painful way. So what Syrians want is for the suffering to stop. There has to be a way of doing that. When we live in this day and age, we can't just let massacres like this continue. That should not become the norm. We're all human beings. And I hear a lot of people say, well, how come they don't just solve the issue by themselves? Why don't they just defend themselves? How can they defend themselves? If you're a civilian sitting in your own house, how are you supposed to defend yourself against military jets and against 2 other countries fighting with Assad? You have Iran and you have Russia. How are you supposed to defend yourself? You think if you have some kind of a pistol or some kind of other weapon that you can defend yourself against heavy weapons like that? I mean, it's just not possible. These people need support, they need protection. And you might say, there is no military solution in Syria, and I completely understand that argument. and there has to be some kind of political transition. But in order to force Assad to come to the negotiating table, you have to come with stronger terms. If he doesn't have any reason to fear, then he's not going to negotiate anything. And that's exactly now what's happening. He's not willing to give up anything. The people who has committed all the crimes are not going to be tried for their crimes. And without justice, it's extremely difficult to achieve peace. So what I'm asking you is to increase the awareness. Please contact your officials. We're not asking for US troops in Syria. There's a lot of different things that can be done. As has been proven with the strikes, these strikes did not require US troops. But there has to be a coalition of good people that are willing to help the Syrian people. And I thank you all for coming, and God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Our next guest speaker is Rabbi Citrin, a wonderful, humble lady as well. She is a rabbi at Bet Or, and it's an honor for me to introduce Rabbi Citrin.
Assalamu alaikum. Each year, Jews around the world relive our redemption from Egypt during the holiday of Passover. We retell the story of our people's oppression in Mitzrayim, the dark and narrow straits of oppression. In exactly 2 days from right this very moment, Jews around the world will sit down at their dinner tables for the Passover Seder, and they will retell this story. We're not told to simply retell the story. We are told that it is intended to feel like we ourselves were slaves in Egypt and were freed with God's redemption. At the Seder, we eat maror, bitter herbs. We dip parsley in salt water to symbolize tears that our people have cried. Only once we have placed ourselves back in those feelings of oppression are we permitted to move forward to celebrate the redemption. Why do we tell the story this way? Because we know that there are peoples today that are suffering under harsh rule the same way the Israelites suffered under Pharaoh. In our freedom, it is our responsibility. We are commanded to stand with those who are not yet free. It is our duty to help them feel the redemption that the Jews felt leaving Egypt. That's the reason that I'm here today, that we're here today. Together we raise our voices, together we stand for freedom, and we ask that those who are being oppressed find peace. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol ha'amim ba'olam. Maker of peace in the heavens, help us to make peace here on earth. May you make peace for us, for Israel, and for all the oppressed peoples of the world. And together we say, Amen.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Brother Sheikh Ahmed. He's the president of the Association of Cary. A wonderful person, humble leader in the community. Brother Sheikh Ahmed.
I begin in the name of God, the most merciful. I thank you, God, for enabling you to be here. I thank all of you from all faiths to be here, to share the grief which we all have. To see those pictures in last 2-3 days where you see children suffocating and people dying. And I thank God for putting that love in the heart of the humanity that we are here. You have heard everything, what is happening in Syria from people who have seen it. I just want to remind that being silent is not an option. Seeing the humanitarian reason, being silent is not an option. It is a tradition of all faiths. and certainly a tradition of Islamic faith. Our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that if you see an oppression, if you see something wrong, if you see some atrocities, and if you have the authority, if you have the power, you must stop it. And if you don't have the authority, the power, but you have the influence to convince them, to persuade them, you must do that. If you don't even have that, then you should raise your voice. And if you can't even do that, at least in your heart, you should feel that something wrong is going on, but I can't do much. And that is the lowest of the faith. Anything below that, you are not a faithful person. In that name, I ask all of you, just like my previous colleagues talk, that we should reach out, because we don't have authority, we can't persuade anybody sitting up, we can reach out to authorities to do something. I appreciate what President Trump did, that he said, I changed my mind about Assad. We all knew what he is, but at least he changed his mind. And he did show, no matter how symbolic it is, but he sent a wave to the world that the United States does feel, people feel. And we got to do something to increase that effort, to increase the pressure on the Syrian government and the Russian government. And so, I ask you to join me in a prayer, because all we can do is ask God to put love in our hearts, to raise our voice, and to guide our leaders to speak up, because they have the authority to do that. So please join me in this prayer. Oh God, we are suffering. And we are suffering because of our deficiencies and the sins we have committed. But you are the merciful God. Your mercy is beyond any limits. And we ask for your forgiveness. And we ask that our brothers and sisters of humanity who are suffering in Syria, help them. God, all these children who are innocent people, and men and women are innocent people, help them. Oh God, we ask you that you guide our leaders in the United States to stand up tall against any opposition, whether it is the Russian government or the Syrian government, and speak up loud that we, the free nation, stand for peace. Oh God, we ask you that in the name of humanity, open the hearts of our leaders, that we at least find a peaceful place for those who are suffering and stuck in a place they cannot get out. Oh God, open out the hearts of our leaders, that we open the doors of immigrants to come and to peaceful United States, a place where we can all ask for peace. Well, God, we thank you for everything given us, and we thank you for all the brothers and sisters who are here. God, protect them, bless them, and oh God, give them rewards for being here. Thank you so much. I ask all the people who are here that soon, in about 5 minutes, we're going to do the prayer, which will take about 5-10 minutes for the dusk, which we're doing that. I ask you to come inside, have some refreshment with us, see us, be with us, and that's what we can do to hold each other's hands and speak for these atrocities. I thank you again. Please come in if you have time. Join us, and we'll do the prayers for 5-10 minutes, and we'll be with you. Thank you so much. And Faisal, I thank you so much for arranging this. May God bless you for arranging all this. Thank you, Faisal.
Couple minutes before we end the event. May I have your undivided attention? There's a story I want to share. It's a really tiny, small story. About 1.5 years ago, I was talking to a diver from Athens, Greece. He does rescue missions. This conversation devastated me and literally affected my sleep for many months to come. He said that for 25 years he's been doing rescue missions in the Mediterranean. And about a year and a half ago, he went into water because there was a boat that had sank. And he went inside, looked inside the boat in a cabin. And this was a boat full of refugees. Most of them either were rescued or died. And when he looked in the cabin, he saw a small baby, dead baby, floating in the cabin. He's been doing that for 25 years. He said he had to come on the surface because that was the first time he cried in the water. And I was in Turkey about a year and a half ago, I saw children and mothers in the streets begging from good families, from middle class families. Their lives were shattered, nothing left for them. So, one, I asked President Trump if he has a change of heart to change your policy and open the doors to the refugees and immigrants entering the United States. Two, I thank you for coming here because half the work is just showing up. Please stand up for peace and justice with your voice, with your activism, with your families, with your friends, and also with Facebook. All of it matters. Reach out to families. Words are important, but actions, as they say, it's a cliche, are louder. And we cannot any longer tolerate the atrocities taking place in Syria. With that, God bless you, God bless America. Please come inside, bring some bread, water. Yes, come inside. Watch us pray. You're most welcome to come in the back and look how we pray. Take pictures if you want, to share with your friends how we pray. And inside there are petitions that are going to be delivered to Senator Burr, Senator Tillis, and Congressman Price. We'll ask that petition to be delivered from them to the White House. I'm going to end by asking all my brothers and sisters from Syria to come here. I want everybody to come here, please. Everybody. I want everybody to come here, please. All the Syrians, I would like to come here. And of course, you're going to be in front of the camera and photos, so if you're not comfortable with that, then don't. Move the black a little bit. This event is about them. A lot of them have come from Syria because they lost their homes, because bombs fell on their homes, because their cities were demolished to dust and rubble. They didn't choose to come here, but they had no choice. And we have a choice too now, to stand up with them or we don't. So please come and hug them, shake hands with them, give them a kiss if you want to, if you feel comfortable with a kiss. My message to all of you, our message to all of you, that we love you from our heart. We share your grief and pain. We cannot feel your pain because you only can feel the pain. One who feels it, one knows it. Bob Marley said that once. But we're here with you. And we're going to continue to stand with you shoulder to shoulder, side by side, for you and for your country and for your families. God bless you. There's a gentleman who'd like to say something.
On behalf of all the Syrians in Cary here. Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of all the Syrian refugees in Raleigh and the Triangle area, and there are Syrians throughout the world who are suffering. I don't want to go into details, but also many of members of my families are suffering in Europe. My wife right now is assisting some Syrians in Serbia because there is a concentration camp with barbed wires and they are locked in because they are treated like criminals. We would like you to please look at us. We are human beings as much as you do. We have the same feelings, we are same ambitions, we have the same plans, and we worry about our children, we worry about our futures. Our blood type are four, we have the same blood types. When one of you needs blood type, you can use my blood and it will work on you. Believe me, we are the same. We want you to raise the voices of our Syrian refugees here and throughout the world, like brothers mentioned on Facebook and social medias, on your congregations. These are good people. We are good people. We are not terrorists. Mr. Trump, please listen to us. We need your help. Europe took 1.5 million of us, and maybe as much as the crime rate happening in anywhere in the world, it did not increase. Once in a while, we are not terrorists. We are not here to attack or hurt or cause you or inflict on you any damage. We need just to survive. Look here, we have a baby. Where is Aisha? Aisha was treated because she came with a big wound in her shoulder, and she was treated, and you see her walking with her hands up there. We have a lot of cases like this here. A lot of them really appreciate. This is a very good exercise. Many of those patients are treated in American hospitals. They will never forget that. The gratitude they have in their hearts for you, it will remain with them throughout their life, because you saved a lot of life. Many of them had many holes in the heart, problem with their kidneys, problem mentally, and nerves. Bullets attack the nerve, and hands is paralyzed. All are being treated here. All of them who arrived now recently are working. They are your car washers. They are working behind the kitchen counters. They are cleaning roads, and many of them are in hotels cleaning rooms. They are not here to create gangs, sell drugs, or none. All of them worry about their own children and their own futures. We thank you very much for
Also,
your arrival here.
there are also teachers and engineers and doctors, so also
Oh, yeah.
other people.
Yeah, we are, like he said. Thank you very much.
It's a time for prayer, so for people who need to pray, come in, and people that don't pray, please also come in.